Hello, Dr. Noob here again. So today I would like to do a minimal scene with all of you together. And to be honest, it cost me a little bit effort to do this tutorial because I have already covered that 2 times. So in this tutorial I tried to put on some new tricks which I have never showed before. But to be honest, if you have already seen the other 2 tutorials, just skip it. Very well, let's start with the minimal scene. You can use the sample scene that it's already in here. You could also create your scene here and name it whatever you like. But I will use now the sample scene. So, first of all, I delete the main camera. Whatever I'm showing you today, you could do it, if you're a specialist, you can do it in another way. I'm just showing you the easy way to create the minimal scene. And that's going under assets to the Corgi engine, then to common, and then to prefabs. And here we have the different folders. Let's go through them. You can take now here the camera and take the regular camera. Maybe you want to have the main camera. It doesn't matter. The reason why I'm taking that is because it has already some features like pixel perfect camera and stuff like that, and it's quite easy and well, I'm lazy, so I like to just drag and drop that in here. Then you go to the next subfolder, which is the GUI, and you get the UI camera. Again, you could also create your own UI, and I think what is the important? I think the input manager is the one that is really important. This is the mandatory one. Then we go to the level manager, and then we have the game managers. Well, this is actually the most important one because it contains everything what you need to make your game run. What else do we have? So let's say you don't want to have the achievements, you just can deactivate it or even delete it if you want to. Anyhow, game managers is one of the mandatory one. And then we can also use the level start. Yes, why not? We can use the level start in here, which is actually a checkpoint and the box collider, not else. What we also need is the level manager. You can create here an empty one and make level manager and add the level manager script in it. And that's actually it. So the only thing now which I see at the moment which I don't like is if you go here and you see the regular camera that's somewhere here by -67 in the x-axis and -11 on the y-axis. I have my UI camera here, which actually for this would be a good one. We have the game manager somewhere else, we have the level start somewhere else, and we have the level manager somewhere else. Let's put it this way. The regular camera, the only important thing that you should consider with the regular camera is that you have the -z axis, the -10 value in the z axis. So, which means I can use for the others just the 0, 0. Which brings me now to the UI camera, which is okay actually. Maybe, just maybe, not put it in the set so far away. So 0 is okay. The game manager, well, why it's in here, I don't know, and to be honest, I don't care. So I will move it somewhere where I don't see it anymore because it's not really necessary. But still, I would like to have the Z axis on 0. The level start is at the moment here. which would cause a lot of problems later, because when I spawn in here, I'm not within those levels, within those level bounds. So also here, I think 0, 0 would be nice. Instead of, if everything is on 0, 0, 0, you just can go here and put reset, and it automatically puts you on 0, 0, 0. Like here, the level manager. You see here, we can go to reset and everything is in 0, 0, 0. Great. Now we can work here. What we have here is now, oh, let's save that. What we have here now is the camera, and you see here the level bounds. So the level bounds is just too narrow. You cannot really work within those bounds. So I will go here to the level manager, and here under level manager you have the level bounds, and you can make it as big or as small as you want. So I think it's very difficult to say something without having any clue about what's coming. So I would say 50 and 20 would be enough. I think that's, for the start, it's not bad. And the level start should be somewhere here, because I would like to make a level starting from here to here. So that's good. We can save that. Okay, so this next step is something we can argue if it really makes sense to do or not. As a beginner, maybe I would skip it, but let's say if you have already done 1-2 games, or if you're planning not just to experiment or fool around, maybe you want to do your own thing, then I recommend to do this step. So the thing is the following: all those things that you see here in blue are part of a prefab. So whenever I change here something in the regular camera prefab, all the other regular camera prefabs are changed too. Which I don't want, because all those prefabs are used in some of the Corgi engine demos. I want maybe to tweak my own thing. So what I want to do now is to make these my own prefabs. Therefore I start and I create a folder which is maybe called Corgi engine prefabs. Now I go in here to the regular camera, and here you have the possibility with right click to go to prefab and unpack completely, which means now this is not blue anymore. It is not attached to the prefab anymore. So I can do the same for all of those. Great. And next thing I personally would recommend is maybe to change the name in here. So make it Metroidvania camera. Maybe then Metroidvania UI camera. Metroidvania game managers. Metroidvania level start. And surprise, surprise, it will be, oops, yeah, Metroidvania level manager. So now I can just take all of them and drag and drop it in here and save it. So whatever change I make, I can make now here, and all the other prefabs are then updated. Just an example, if I would like to go here to MV UI camera and I say I don't want to have the HUD and I save it, then you see it has automatically been vanished here in our game, because the UI camera in here has now the HUD not activated. That's just an example. Okay, so the second part of this tutorial is dedicated to import the sprites that we have already made or corrected in the last tutorial. You have maybe realized in my last tutorial that the idle animation here, or the idle sprite sheet, has already a 16 pixels per unit and point no filter, as well as the compression set to none. Why is that? So if I open it, I can count that we have here around 14 pixels, to be more precise 12 pixels for the character. And you could use here also 12, maybe 14, whatever you like. In my case, I definitely like to stay with 16, just because I think that's a what should I say here? Well, I grew up with informatics, so 16 is more natural than 12 for me, because it's a binary number. Anyhow, so I decided to import that 16, and the filter mode and the compression, this is most used when you have a drawing but not pixel art. So if it's pixel art, please make sure you have point no filter and compression none. So I need to change now all of those with the same logic, which in this case I will do with a lead needle trick. If you go here to the main folder of Lugual, I can search for a type. So I could search for sprites, but you will see that this is not the one we want. It's a little bit confusing that the sprite sheets are really under texture. And so now I can choose all of them and take out the idle, because I have already changed them. And normally the standard would be that you have here 100. So I changed that to 16. I changed that to point no filter and to no compression, and apply it to all. And so it will take a little bit of time, but then all of them are changed. Done. So if I go now to gun, everything looks good. So this part I'm going a little bit faster because because I have already done that a few times in other tutorials. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I can point you to the right tutorial. Anyhow, the thing is, we have here our sprite sheet with the art of Lugual, and we have set everything for the pixel art set. But these are 3 separate animation parts, so I cannot use the sprite mode single, because that would be just for one single sprite frame. But here we have 3, so we should go here to multiple and apply that and go to the sprite editor. Here I can slice it, and you see I can slice automatically, or by cell size, or by cell count. As you see, I have already done that in the past, because here, let's say if it would have been 4, then you see 4 different lines here, which doesn't really make sense. We have 3 columns, so 3 different frames, and he takes exactly those. So if I slice them, you see we have here the idle 0, idle 1 and idle 2. If I apply that, then you see now also the 3 different sprite frames. Very well. So now we're ready to create the character, which is just drag and drop that in here. And because we are importing it with the 3 frames, he realized that it must be an animation, which is okay. because it is. So I recommend here to have a naming conventions for all the animations or anything like that, because with the time it will get confusing. So first the name of the player or enemy or whatever you would like, and then you can use an underscore, or in my case I do uppercase and do player idle animation. And that's it. Sadly, he creates that in the same folder. This is the animation itself, and this is the animator controller. And because this guy here had the name idle in it, oh, the dog is barking, because here has an idle, I think I will close the windows 1 second. That's live. Player anim controller. So much better. So now we have the animation controller and we have our first animation. And if we go very near to it, we can see the animation. Good. You can tweak around about the samples, so how fast maybe you want it to be really fast, which doesn't make sense. I think 7, or I don't know, 5 maybe would be more relaxed. Well, this is something for the future to tweak around. At the moment I leave it as is. And now we have this idle 0 again, because I drag and dropped it. It should have a better name. At the moment I will name it player. Please leave me in the comments if you have a better name for this character. Well, now that we have the player here, you see, well, we have the animator, which is the player anim controller, and the sprite renderer, just to see it in here. We need to add the component, which is called character. And here you can decide if the character type is an AI or a player. In my case, it's a player. And the player ID would be player 1. Now, in which direction does it look? It looks to the right. If it spawns, should I go for default or left or right? I can force those things, but to be honest, I don't really care in which direction he looks or she looks at the moment. At the moment it has no health because we have not done anything about it. What we need to do now is we auto build the player character. You could do the AI character if it's an enemy or something like that, but because it's our player, that's the one that I will use. Now we need to tweak here a little bit around. So as I remember from our last tutorial, I was talking a lot about the box collider. So you see our work is well done. The thing is narrow, it's in the middle, it's just wonderful. So here we can try and make it, I would say, it should be something like 0.3. Oh yes, perfect. And now here, what should we do? Yeah, and so that doesn't look too awful. Yeah, I personally just like to have whole numbers, which is at the moment okay. 0.8, 0.7. Yeah, 0.7 is better. Well, I normally try to not have more than 2 digits behind the comma. when I'm doing here some numbers, so it shouldn't be like 1 2 3 1 1 2 and I don't know what. So 0 3. Yeah, so I think I will leave it now with those values. Later I can still tweak them around. Then you have the Corgi controller. The Corgi controller handles the collisions. Later, when I do a platform, you use the, I can tell you in here, the layer. You can put the layer like platforms or moving platforms or stuff like that later when you're creating the platforms. And here you can tell him what layer it is. Maybe you want to have more or different names or whatever. At the moment I will leave the standard, and well, we can go through every one of them like health and so on. But at the moment the only important things that we need is the character level bounds. What happens if he goes down, left and right. So if I touch the button, he should be killed. Everything else should just constrain. And the other important one is the horizontal movement. And just that you don't get confused in the future when you are trying your game out, I will suggest you to deactivate all of them up until the horizontal movement. So we need the health, we need the character level bounds, and we need the horizontal movement for our Metroidvania. Everything else, I know that we will also use jump and so on, but at the moment that's good enough. So just save that. And that's it for this part. So there is one thing we need to do with our prefab. I opened the prefab in here just with a double click. And if we go to the character level bounds, you see that we have on the top, left and right of our level bounds a constraint. Means the character cannot move outside of that box. Or better said, this collider cannot move outside of the box. And we have in the bottom kill. At the moment we don't have platforms. I could build one, but just to make it easy, I think we can go here and put constraint and save it, which means the character can walk on the ground. So why did I create this player prefab in here? So the reason is because if you want to spawn it under the level start here, you can only add those as a prefab. You see that under level manager he's asking for the player prefabs. So if I open it, the list would be empty. So what I'm doing is I drag and drop this in here, and now I have the player character as the element in here. So you see the reason why I did that. It's just because to make a better quality in my videos, I have made that a little bit too big for the screen, so I had to narrow it down a little bit. So that's it. Let's test that. I click on play. Oh, and I have now 2 players, and I can walk around, which is exactly what we wanted. I see the error that I have is I have still my player in here. I don't know how I could have missed that. You just need to delete that, save it again, play again, and now we just have 1 player in here. Great! I think that's it for this a little bit long tutorial. I hope you didn't get bored. All those things I have covered in older tutorials, that's why I was a little bit trying to do something different. That's why it took so long. Anyhow, I hope to see you next time. Cheers!